Hello, everybody. So today we'll be talking about web technologies, how a website is built from the scratch. So everything we see while we visit a website, basically our content. Based on that, I'm gonna visit a website so that I can show it practically. So everything we see in here are built of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Actually, we build the structure of website, and using HTML, we build the structure or skeleton of a website. A website has three parts: header, body, and then it's the footer. HTML doesn't have any logic or any variables to declare. It only have tags, and tag could be of opening tag and closing tag. For example, as you can see, HTML. HTML is the opening tag. It doesn't have any slash in it, and it has a closing tag, and it has an extra slash. So there is this differences between opening tag and closing tag. All the tags that are being used in HTML have a opening tag and a closing tag. However, there are some tags which doesn't have any closing tag. Those tags are called self-closing tags. Uh, for example, image tag. If you just look into it, you just use search and type img. As you can see, img, it doesn't have any closing tag. It starts with img and that greater than and less than button, but it doesn't have any closing tag in it. But if you look at the span tag, it is called inline tag. Means a tag within another tag. Span has a opening tag and it has a closing tag as well. But emails doesn't have any closing tag. So the difference between them two is self-closing tag doesn't have any closing tag, whereas the normal tag has an opening tag and a closing tag. All right. So as I said, an HTML file have three parts: the header, which is this head, as you can see, the body, and modern HTML5 files doesn't have any footer tag. But back then, before HTML5, there was this footer portion as well. So using these HTML tags, we basically place text, images, emojis, buttons, and everything. To place this text, there's this tag which we call, sometimes they use H1, which is headline 1, headline 2, headline 3, headline 4, and headline 5. So based on the numbering, the size of the font actually varies. This could be of, if we just place our mouse pointer there, as you can see, H1, which is the headline one. If you just change H1 to H2, you'll notice the size of the font in Join the Organic Movement will reduce. See, it has reduced its size. So when the number increases, the size of the font decreases. Since we are not going to develop any website, we'll just be tracking different events or buttons or text in the website. So we'll not be diving that deep, but as a conversion tracking expert, we'll just be stretching on the surface level so that whenever we try to track certain button or text or an image, so that we can easily understand like how we can track them using or just figure out which element we should look into to track that certain button or the text, all right? And as you have noticed, uh, this is all these things are under HTML tag. It has opening tag and it has a closing tag at the end. So under this HTML tag, all the elements are placed. This is called nested elements. We will be talking about this in future. That's why I said that term. So I want you guys to just keep it in your head so that whenever we talk about these nested things in future, you can recall it later. For example, whenever we will be sending custom events using JavaScript, we will have to talk about tables. And under tables, we'll have nested elements like listed items and unlisted items. So that's when we'll be talking about nesting or nested elements. So that's what I'm saying. HTML is all about nesting elements under different elements, all right? As you can see, this div contains so many elements, and these are nested under this div. Div means division. UL means unordered listing, and this li is called listed items. We don't need to know them at all because we don't have any use of it in future. I'm just saying so that you can have a basic idea or what are they called. All right. Uh, and everything you see here is called document object model. Okay. I believe that is enough to know about HTML to become a conversion tracking expert. So we basically place different elements in a website using HTML, but HTML doesn't allow us to uh, set the color or aesthetics of it. Like we can just place the element, like join the organic movement, but we cannot set the size of this font or the color of this font using HTML. We can just set the structure or skeleton of the website. If we try to just clarify it using an example, let's say there is this restaurant, they are building it from the scratch. So while they are building it, they will have to build some pillar first, then they have to decide where to have the guest room, where to have the waiting room, and that chef's room, cooking room, washroom, and everything. And these washroom, guest room, cashier room, everything is, we could say, are elements which are set by HTML. To just colorize them and to set the color for them, um, it is not possible using HTML. And to do that, I mean, to set the size of an element or color of an element or shape or alignment of an element in the website, everything we see here, like, as you can see, it has an alignment, size of that very box, size of the font, name of the font, everything is set using CSS. It helps to set the aesthetic of a website. CSS is a short form of cascading style sheet. If we look at it practically, on the right side, as you can see, for this very element, this div elementor expanded. Best-selling product. This is a simple font, less initially, and later on it was formatted. They have set the styling using these codes. This is HTML code. This is HTML code, and this is CSS basically. So to style a HTML element, we have to target the HTML element. Either it could be using class or ID. Class can be used in a single document multiple times, but ID, it's very unique. once a ID is used, it cannot be used for any other elements in the same pages. It could be used another or other pages in the same website. So while we are in conversion tracking fields, we have to use this class and ID as well. So now that we know class can be used, I mean, a single class like Elementor heading title, this can be used in some other um, tag in the same pages, but ID, it cannot be used. So now you know which one is safer to target a single element. ID is better to use because there is no chance of targeting two elements at the same time. And you know the risk of using something that has a repetition in the same page. For example, if you try to track this very button using class, and this class also been used by some other element in the same page or same page. So once we track this button using this class, it will not only track this button, it will also track the other button which uses this same class. But if we use ID, in that case, there is nothing will happen. Okay, I mean, nothing wrong will happen, or it will not track the different button for the same tag. Okay, so we can basically do the styling using these codes. Let me do some editing so that you can actually understand how these things works. The color of this button is green. If we try to change the color of it, not sure where it is, but let's see if we can change the color of it. Font color. Let's change the size of it. Maybe large or extra large. Straight from. This is how styling is applied to element using CSS. There are different ways you can target an element, as I said, using class or ID, or even using element path. For example, you want to target this H1, headline 1, you can target using this way. It has originated from div, like 4 divs, and then H1. So you can do the targeting using div, then div. This way, inside the CSS file, you can also target a certain element, which we will explore while we will be tracking using Google Tag Manager. So there is nothing much I'll be covering in CSS because I myself don't know much about CSS as well. And we are not actually be going to develop websites, so we don't need to know much about CSS. And one more thing, a single element can be targeted multiple times for multiple styling. So the question may arise like which styling will be applied for that element. CSS has this term called specificity. So the more specific your targeting is, uh, the better it will target. For example, we have more specific styling for this organic, the organic movement, and the targeting, which doesn't have that specificity. In that case, the more specific targeting will be applied for this element. That's all about CSS, and cascading also means that specificity as well. That's why this it's not a programming language. It's just used for styling a HTML document. So once we are writing HTML codes and set styling for the HTML codes and targeting the tags in the website, we have our website ready, which is not dynamic. And these are static website, which doesn't act based on user interaction. So to make a website interactive and behave the way the user wants, we have to set some functionality. And those functionalities are set using JavaScript. It makes a website dynamic. For example, you have this website and you have left a option to choose by user whether they want the language in the website as Bangla or English. So once the user choose Bangla, all the text in the website converts to or changes to Bangla. And once they choose English, changes all the text in the website to English. This actually is carried out by JavaScript. There are other functionalities as well. For example, um, on click of this Shop Now button, we may see a pop-up appearing in the screen, which asks about the quantity we need, or the color, or the taste of food we are looking for. These sort of things are basically set by JavaScript. To conclude, JavaScript basically helps to make a website dynamic and more functional, tailored to users' needs. Okay, and this thing is very broad. We talk about JavaScript, but as a um, web analyst and conversion tracking expert, we'll be exploring these later on. But for the time being, we'll not be covering everything in here. Later, when we will be having JavaScript classes, we'll be covering loops, if else conditions, variables, and other things as well. For the time being, this is everything we want to know. We don't want to explore more about it. So to just wrap up, HTML is used to set the layout of a website or the skeleton of the website, like what what kind of element we want to have and where do we want to have it. We do it using tag, and a tag has two parts, which are uh, opening tag and closing tag. There's some tag which doesn't have closing tags, and those tags are called self-closing tags. And so, mm, as I said, and we can also have attributes inside the element. For example, we just select an element here. This is an element, and if you just look into it, this is the opening tag. It starts here and ends here. Inside this, we have class. This is called attribute. We can also set more attribute like ID, value, etc. And inside this best selling product, this is the element, and this is the closing tag. This is opening tag and this is closing tag. The difference between an opening tag and closing tag is slash. All right. Uh, a website has three parts. Back then it used to be, and now it has two parts, which is header and body. Back then While we had different version of HTML, we had footer as well. And so far, by HTML, we managed to set elements like text, images, and buttons and everything, but without styling. To do the styling or um, set the aesthetics of the website, we need CSS, which is cascading style sheet. Using that, we set the size of a font, color of a font, and the alignment, and every other thing. And using JavaScript, we basically set the functionality of certain button, text, and everything. Using JavaScript, we make a website dynamic and responsive as well. Responsiveness also is done by CSS as well. So that's all about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I believe you guys have a basic idea about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that's all we need as a conversion tracking spot. So far, we have learned about different web technologies that we need to build a website. And we, as a conversion tracking expert, need to know about those technologies so that we can better understand and we can effectively do the tracking for any sort of websites. Now we'll try to understand different layer of a website. There are basically three layers of a website. One is the presentation layer, which we always see once we visit a website or our audience visit our website, my website. So this is the presentation layer where we read the contents, we click on a button, we do the exploring on navigation bar, everything. This is called the presentation layer, or even sometimes it is called front end. These sort of terms is being used by the developer, but we, as a conversion tracking expert, will be addressing this as a presentation layer. Okay, and there is this layer which we mostly use as a conversion tracking expert, which is data layer. Uh, we cannot basically have it for all the websites in the world. There are some website which has this data layer. Where it is absent, you can talk to the website owner, and the website owner can talk to the website developer who can enable it, or who is a conversion tracking expert can push custom event to the data layer as well. And this is a temporary layer of a website where all the data, I mean, all the interaction data gets stored for a certain period of time. For example, you have a visitor. So whenever he gets into your web page, and he will be doing some sort of activities. And these activities will be generating data as well. With these data, an event will be pushed to the data layer. And we will be collecting all the data from that very data layer. So I repeat, not all the website will have the data layer. We can either push or create the data layer by ourselves by writing custom JavaScript code, or the website owner can enable it by talking to the web developer. This data layer is basically could be an array or an object. It varies website to website, and these objects and arrays are. I cannot show you guys anything because, as I said earlier, it's not visible anywhere. We can have it using. Okay, let me show you guys what that layer looks like. So here we have arrived using preview mode from Google Tag Manager. Once we arrive, we have just viewed a product. It has generated an event which called view item, and this view item event is pushed to the data layer with all the related data or relevant data. This is the view item event pushed to the data layer. As you can see, the event started with data layer push. So Google Tag Manager has received it, and this is how basically uh, the data in the data layer looks like. As I said earlier, data layer is basically, it could be an array or an object. In our case, here you see it's an object. Sometimes you might see an array. So don't get confused. And these data follows some sort of structure or a schema. It could be of GFO schema. It could be of Meta schema or TikTok schema. But mostly we see when we are in a WordPress website, it's mostly GFO schema. In our case, it's GFO schema. All right. Besides this presentation layer and data layer, there is this layer called application layer, which is used to connect third-party application like Google Analytics 4 or any other marketing platform to directly connect with the website. But we rarely use it because GTM has a lot to offer and it has other benefits as well. That's all about the different layer of your website. We mostly will be dealing with data layer. So, and we'll be diving deeper on this data layer as well, but not in this session, but later on. So before we wrap up the session, I'll be talking about some important terms. So I'm just gonna close this and open again so that I can explain in detail. Once we open a website using the preview, we'll always notice this. We'll always notice few events, starting with consent initialization. Have you ever asked yourself what actually that means and how we can utilize them to track the website? See, once the website has loaded, all these events get pushed to that layer. This consent initialization, what it means actually. Consent initialization talks about whether the user have provided any consent to track their behavior in your website. If GTM figure out, GTM will look into this event and will look there that whether the user has provided their consent to collect their behavior or they have provided the consent for marketing or analytics. Based on that, they will basically, GTM will basically initialize itself. By initialization, it means it will prepare itself and everything inside it. It will get ready, but means it will check itself, its tags, triggers, and variables. It will check if those are ready for initialization. It will just check in this stage. It will not load everything, all right? And this container loaded by this, it means it will just prepare everything inside it to track. Means it will just get tags, triggers, variables, and all the instructions ready for observation. Once anything happens in the website, it will just listen to it, and based on the trigger, tags will be firing. Means it gets everything inside Google Tag Manager ready. So what initialization does, it checks every instruction inside the Google Tag Manager, whether they are ready for observation. And in this container loaded stage, it gets ready, means it prepares yourself already. And this message event, it listens for if there is any events coming to the data layer. There is nothing else in it. I will just be ignoring view item list. It comes directly from the website, nothing else. And DOM ready. By DOM, it means document object model, as we have talked about while we are exploring the HTML topic. This is the DOM. So by DOM ready, it means all the elements, tags, CSS, everything is ready. By DOM ready, we mean DOM ready. It means document object model is ready. So if we set any trigger related to DOM ready, we can only do it if all the elements and CSS is already loaded inside it. And by window loaded, it means everything we see in the screen is already loaded, means loading completed. And we'll be using this while we will be exploring a custom-made website or custom JavaScript website. We'll have to use them to set the triggers. If you don't know this properly, we cannot set the triggers properly, and we'll have a lot of problems. That's why I thought of explaining them to you guys, and I believe it will benefit you guys a lot. So yeah, that's all about these events, and it will help us a lot in the future, I believe. So yeah, thank you so very much. That's all about today's session. We'll catch up in the next session. So thank you so very much.